Hello everyone, I am Linh from Team 9. Our team has 5 members in total and we will go through Chapter 9 to bring you guys a better understanding of the foundation of group behavior. We hope everyone will enjoy it. Let's take a general look at our outline. So, Thuy will begin this lesson.
Hello everyone, I'm Thanh Thuy and today I'm gonna cover the first 3 sections of chapter 9 with the main theme is about groups. So let's get started with the definition of group. A group is 2 or more individuals who come together to achieve a specific number of goals. There are 2 main kinds of group, formal and informal. The organizations will establish the formal group with assigned work tasks and require the members to complete the listed achievements. The example for formal group is a group of officers under marketing department of Unilever, or simply the group for OB assignments like we're doing right now. The other type of group is informal groups such as college of Starbucks who usually go out together for lunch, or group of your best friend at schools. Informal groups are formed because of the need for social interaction. Though it is not directly related to your work, it had a significant influence on your behavior and performance at work. So why people really need to join in a group? There are many reasons have been listed out, but the one that stands out the most is the social identity theory. It suggests that people have a tendency of investing their time and effort into the accomplishment of a group. This theory also states that the emotional reaction of a person to the success or failure of a group are greatly influential to his or her level of self-esteem. Here rising a new definition needs to be remembered. Schadenfreude, which is the red word right on the slide. It is the feeling of pleasure when an individual observing another group suffer from misfortunes. In addition, some benefits that we can get from joining groups are that we get to understand ourselves better, and the positive group relationships can help to lower the level of depression and to have a healthy mind and body. Another way that we can classify groups is by individuals' point of view. We will have in-group and out-group. Let's take an example for easier understanding. You and your friends are in-group members of movie clubs at school, then all of other people in other clubs are out-group. There's a competition between clubs in your school for a grand prize, and you, with in-group favoritism, will think that our club will definitely win the first prize because we're so good that no one can beat us. Additionally, it has been proved that people with low openness or low agreeableness are more vulnerable to in-group favoritism, and religion conflicts between in-group and out-group can cause tremendously and aggressively discriminatory. One more groups-related definition need to be memorized is social identity threat, a situation when an individual feels down and discouraged as they are part of the value groups judged by other people. People with social identity threat can be shy and timid. They feel that they are not good enough to do anything. In such situation, you should give them motivation and heartened actions to make them feel self-confident again. Next up, we're gonna find out how a group works through the punctuated equilibrium model. A little note here that this model is best fit for temporary work group with the deadline. So there are 6 stages in total. The first stage is when the group's members first met each other and set out the general purposes and direction. Then in stage 2, fixed course of actions based on the first meeting is carried out in an inertia or slowly progress. Transition stage 3 is interestingly occur at the midpoint between the start and the deadline. After transition, there will be a major changes in stage 4 when the group reconsider their purposes and way of doing things. Similarly, an inertial progress with new vision will be stage 5 of this model. Last but not least, the group will have a last meeting, an accelerated progress to make sure that they can complete their job gorgeously before the deadline. That is all the basic concept you need to know about defining and classifying groups. Now we will learn more deeply on the importance of groups in the workplace through its property. So the first property to be mentioned is roles, which include role perception, role expectations, role conflict, and role play and assimilation. Role perception is our view of how we should act in given situation. Therefore, one role perception is different from another. On the other hand, we got role expectations, the view of other people's about how an individual should act in a given situation, which usually vary in cultural contexts. One common form of role expectations is unwritten psychology contract, which consists of regulations on how employees should behave at the workplace. Next up, work conflicts is when one role requirements cannot comply with the others. One typical instance is work-family conflict. You either spend too much time on your work or on your family. Consequently, your consequently, you can be more vulnerable to stress if facing role conflict in a long time. Lastly, we'll take a look at role play and assimilation. So there was an experiment where volunteers were required to have a role play in extreme environment, specifically prisoners and guards. And surprisingly, they got immersed in their own role play real quick, even though they were against their role's characteristic at first. The results suggest that stereotype background formed by self-experience and the mass media allowed people to easily and rapidly assume roles in the given situation. So that is all for property 1. Now we will continue our lecture with property 2 of group.
Hi guys, I'm Hiền and I will present the next part. There are several properties of groups that have shared group behavior, explain and predict individual behavior as well. We have discussed this about the group property 1, the roles. So next we will move to the group property 2, that's norms. Norms are standards of behavior that are acceptable by group members and they express what we should or should not to do under certain circumstances. Of course, there are some different types of norms, such as performance norm that look at an acceptable work level or quality, or appearance norm related to about what we should wear. Social arrangement norms look at acceptable relationship, and allocation of resources norms will look at how things are distributed. Next, I will present about the hard-time stories. To help you have clear understanding of group norms, the studies were conducted in 1920s. Their findings have been widely used in the understanding of group interactions, and this study found that worker behavior was highly influenced by group norms and that productivity was influenced by the standard the group set forth. Moreover, money was not important as in determining worker outputs as group standards or sentiments were. Yeah, as you can see that different groups, communities, and societies have different norms, but they all have them. So let's discuss the levels of group of influence norms can exert over us, starting with emotion. Yeah, in the relationship with emotions, norms detect the experience of emotions for individuals and groups. Normative effect of groups can powerfully influence group attitudes and outcomes. And emotion is fixed under certain circumstances. For example, at the funeral, you are not allowed to show your happiness because because of society's norms that you should not show your happiness at the funeral. As a member of a group, you desire acceptance by group, right? So next we will continue with norms and conformity. But the question is, what is the conformity? The conformity is the adjustment of one's behavior to align with the norms of the group, and the fact that people conform to their reference group. So what is reference groups? Reference groups are important groups to which individuals belong or hope to belong, and with whose norms individuals are likely to conform. And ungroup do not impose equal conformity pressures on their members. Well, with the relationship between norms and conformity, we have group norms and behavior that are based on conformity, where individuals gain acceptance with the group by changing their behavior to more closely match that of the group. Individuals match their behavior to reference groups they see as important. The study further our understanding of conformity and demonstrated the power of conformance. As set forth a series of experiments where the answers were fairly easy and straightforward. However, when he had groups member answer incorrectly, it influenced the subject to answer incorrectly too. And even though the answer was not difficult, but some reason today has shown that conformity is decreasing in importance and can be culturally bound. However, some individuals do not like to conform and adhere to set norms due to a different number of reasons. Some individuals do not like to individuals of this nature may engage in daring workplace behavior or behavior that goes against organizational norms and hinders the desired outcomes of the organizations. Therefore, typology of daring behavior, workplace behavior. The first is production, as related to about working speed. The second is property, related to about damage and stealing. The third is political, about the favoritism and godship. And the last, personal harassment, involving sexual harassment. So the matter is that how groups influence on daring behavior. Group norms can discourage daring behavior because the group won't accept the behavior. But group membership can also encourage daring behavior because the individual will feel like they can hide in the group and the chance of being crushed is lower.
Hello, it's me again. I will continue this lesson with group property 3 status. Status is a socially defined position or rank given to groups or group members by others. Even the smallest of groups will be judged by other small groups. Opinions will be made, reputation will be earned, and status will be assigned. Status characteristic theory states that differences in status characteristics create status hierarchies within a group. According to this theory, we can determine 3 sources of status. First, the power of a person's will over others, because they have the ability to control the group's resources. Those who control the group's resources tend to be considered to be of high status. Second, a person's ability to contribute to a group's goals. Contributors are important to the success of a group that tend to have a high status. Finally, an individual person characteristic. A person with a positive personality is judged by the team. Good appearance, intelligent, money, or friendly personality often has a higher status than someone with few valuable attributes. So let's go through with status and norms. A high status individual is often given more freedom to deviate from norms than other group members. As individuals of high status, they are given many decisions as long as their activities do not seriously adversely affect the group's target achievement. Second, status and group interaction. High status members tend to be more assertive group members. They speak out more often, criticize more, state more comments, and interrupt others more often. If you ever watch television's medical drama House, the very talented, intelligent main character is allowed to act unconventionally and often inappropriately, largely because the diagnostic talents he brings to the group are so rare and valued. He is often assertive and outspoken with the other group members. He is addicted to pain medication. He hates people and lets everyone know it. And yet, his behaviors are tolerated. He is a high status contributor to the group and they need his talent badly, so they overlook his failure to conform to their norms. Next, status and inequity. In spite of the high status members taking advantage of the norms and dominating group interaction, equity is an important part of status. We talk a bit about how perceived equity is a motivator for people. Perceived inequity creates this equilibrium which inspires various types of corrective behavior. If the status is observed when reward and resources are distributed among the group members, then usually all is well. 4 is status and stigmatization. Stigma is a powerful social process occurring within the context of power, as beginning with labeling, followed by stereotyping, which leads to separation and ultimately results in status loss and discrimination. And you can see the endpoint of the stigmatization process in this picture. Discrimination is the unfair and unjust action toward an individual or group on the basis of real or perceived status or attributes. Individuals face stigma for differences relating to both health status, for example, disease-specific, and non-health characteristics, such as poverty, gender, individuals or groups with several stigmatized conditions or characteristics often experience multiple intersections of stigma, intensifying the negative effect of stigma. The last one is group status. Refer the extent to which members of a group are respected and admired by others. All known societies are characterized by status stratification, with the most advantaged group enjoying a more than fair share to the total wealth and prestige. Gender and ethnicity and age, but also disability, weight, sexual orientation, and of course education, income, and class background are the main criteria of social stratification. In general, members of high status groups praise individual and autonomous view, while the opposite trends prevail at the bottom of the state hierarchy. So let's turn to group property for size. This part is gonna show you how group size affect group performance. Let's get started with social loafing. It is the tendency for individuals to expend less effort when working collectively than alone. It directly challenges the assumption that the productivity of the group as a whole should at least equal the sum of the productivity of the individual in it. We can think that the same level of productivity is okay with more people when it should be more productivity. Social loafing appears to have a Western bias. It's consistent with individualist cultures such as the United States and Canada that are dominated by self-interest. So, what causes the social loafing? First is motivation. It can play an important role in determining whether social loafing takes place. People who are less motivated by a task are more likely to engage in social loafing when they are part of a group. The second cause is the diffusion of responsibility. When in a group, people tend to feel less personal accountability and may even feel that their individual efforts have little impact on the outcome. Influences is known as the tendency to be less likely to help a person in trouble when other people are present, because people assume that their efforts don't matter and that they are not personally responsible. They also assume that someone else will be the one to take action. The third one is group size. In small groups, people are more likely to feel that their efforts are more important and will, therefore, contribute more. The larger group, however, the less individual effort people will extend. And finally, expectation. If you expect other people to slack up, you probably will sin. You don't want to get stuck doing all of the work. On the other hand, if you are in a group of high achievers who seem like they are in control of a group's efforts, you might also be more likely to kick back and let them handle all of the work. Social loafing can have a serious impact on group performance and efficiency. However, there are some things that can be done to minimize the effect of social loafing. So let's check our prevention. Creating small groups and establish individual accountability can help. Groups should develop standards and rules, define tasks, assign responsibility, evaluate personal and collective progress, and highlight the achievement of individual members. By personalizing the group, engaging individuals in certain tasks, and encouraging team loyalty, people will be more likely to give their all when working as part of a group?
Hello everyone, my name is Nhat Khoa. I'm a member of group number 9 and I'm going to move on to the next part of our presentation, the group property number 5. In this part, we're going to talk about one feature that every successful work group needs for their team. We call this the cohesiveness among members in one group. So, what is cohesiveness? How does it work? Why is it so important? Before we find out about that, let's take a look at its definition. Cohesiveness can be defined as the key factor that connects members together, makes them attracted to each other, and feel motivated to stay in the group. Cohesiveness can be considered as an intangible group property. So, by spending lots of time together, showing high interaction, or facing external threats, members in one group can get closer and closer, and that work group can be cohesive. Now, let's get back to the question, why is cohesiveness so essential to a group? The answer is cohesiveness can directly affect the group productivity. Many studies show that there is a relationship between productivity and cohesiveness, and it depends on the performance-related norms. Here is a table to show comparison and relationship between cohesiveness and performance norms. If cohesiveness is high and performance norms are high too, the result will end up with the high productivity in the future. If cohesiveness is low and the performance norms are high, there will be a moderate productivity in the future. But if the cohesiveness is high and the performance norms are slow, there will be a completely low productivity. And if both of them are low, the productivity will lie at the moderate level to the lower level, can be higher, never. Till now, we all see what we can benefit from cohesiveness, and it's time for us to think of what we should do to create group cohesiveness. Here are some of our suggestions. We can try to make the group smaller. As people always say, the fewer members, the more effective our group. The second thing is to encourage agreement with our group goals. Every member only needs support or motivation from others to create new things or come up with new ideas. The third thing is to increase the time members spend together. The more we meet and share and discuss, the more we perceive and understand each other. We can increase the group status and the perceived difficulty of attaining membership. Every individual in a group should be aware of their important role and should know how to maintain the stability and cohesiveness of their group. Stimulating competition with other groups is also a good idea because members in that group will have their own specific purpose to work harder. The next thing is to give rewards to the whole group instead of every individual to avoid the jealousy in the group. The last thing is to isolate your group to let them work independently and pay extremely high attention to what they are doing. Now, let's come to the last part of my presentation, the group property number 6. And this is about the diversity in the work group. We all know the meaning of the word diversity is to show the various kinds of features. In this case, diversity in a group's memberships also show how members are familiar to or different from one another in aspects of culture, gender, race, and many other characteristics. We call diversity is the group property, but most of the time it appears to increase conflicts in that group, especially in the early stages of the group's tenure when we first establish our team. So, if diversity can cause conflict in a group, why do we still call it a group property? Everything has its own reason, and we're gonna find out about it. Let's have a look at these two side effects, and I'm gonna talk about the disadvantages first. As you can see, members with different lifestyles and different perspectives can feel less satisfied with the teammates, and they can make the group less cohesive. Moreover, in the future, conflicts may happen more frequently because some of them have to suffer from irritating working habits or annoyance from the other. However, with the assistance of effective team instruction or organizational support and leadership, members can turn their disadvantages into advantages. Those diverse groups can easily exchange information from various sources of knowledge or experiences of the teammates. Some of them can take more opportunity to solve the problem in many unique ways with different opinions, and they can cue their team member to be more open-minded in their views. To summarize, diversity is a very complicated issue, and it can be considered as a mystery. Why do I say so? Because at the first time, it is so difficult for us to adapt to the diverse group in the short term. However, if we can weather the differences, diversity can help us to work better, to cooperate better, or to be more creative and open-minded with our teammates.
Okay, I will continue with my part, which is group decision making. The main point in this part is divided into 3 points. First, we will contract the strength and the weakness of the group decision making. Second, what is the phenomenon can appear in group decision making. And finally is group decision making technique. When you guys study or work, sometimes you have to work with a team, but some people think that teamwork may not very effective than doing by individual. This is true that sometimes team decision making is trouble, but there are also have some advantage. We will discuss the disadvantage first. Well, when we work in a team, we have to do a lot of things like make a conversation with team member, listen to a lot of ideas and decide which solution is the best. So this take too much time to do, and moreover, it can have many pressure because the idea often clash. But if you think at the positive point, you will learn a number of knowledge from each other, and this also may build your creative and see all the view of the problems. In some situations, the last solution that all members compromise will be more accurate. But when doing a teamwork, you will face some phenomenon. So we will continue to the next part, grouping and groupship. And to make this more clearly, I will give you guys some examples from each phenomenon. I believe that each of you guys have probably met this problem in your life, especially when you do a teamwork. Well, let's make this more easier to understand. For instance, think about the last time when you were a part of a group, like a team project. Imagine that someone talk about an idea that you think is not very practical, and however, everyone else in a group agree with that idea and decide to make that idea for the presentation. So in that case, some people feel that their disagreement can disrupt the harmony of a group, and conflict also can arise. That phenomenon called groupthink. Group think can have some benefit, like finish the project quickly. However, there also has many costs. The subtraction of individual opinion can lead to the wrong decision making and inefficient problem solving. Okay, the next phenomenon is groupship, also called group polarization. Groupship occurs in a group where individuals strongly agree about an issue, and after they discuss, they become more extreme. Groupship can be observed in a cyber war or online discussions. Take this for example. When a famous brand like Pepsi or Starbucks post something infamous in Facebook or social network, it's become more viral in the internet. On the other hand, this can make people more risky or more cautious, depending on which way people were learning. Okay, now we will come to the next part. Making technique in decision making. This will help to decrease the risk of the group decision making. First, the interact group. This means team members have to meet face-to-face with each other and communicate with team member. Most decisions will happen in group meeting, and this is quite common. But in real life, few people use this because this can be affected by group things. And the next one is brainstorming. Brainstorming is a group decision-making technique designed to increase the range of ideas and solutions available for the group to explore. The goal is generate as many ideas as possible. And finally, similar to brainstorming is nominal group techniques. It's like brainstorming, but it have more structures, and this technique you have to follow in 5 steps. The first is write down an idea in private. Second is share idea. Third is discuss the idea. And next is vote on idea. And finally is calculate the group decisions. In meeting, making decision is an everyday occurrence, and it can be challenged when you dealing with different people and different opinions. Each of them could be useful in different situations. There are a table of each techniques show evaluating group effectiveness. This is on page 337. Okay, before we end the course today, my friend will have you guys to summarize.
Yeah, with all the things my friends have presented above, now I would like to summarize to help you have easily catch the basic information of this chapter. First, we have defined groups and distinguish between different types of groups, including nouns, including informal and informal. And then we have described the punctuated equilibrium model of group development. And next we have this pointed out group properties concerning how roles requirements change in different situations, how nouns exert influence on an individual behavior, how status and size differences affect group performance, and how issues of cohesiveness and diversity can be integrated for group effectiveness.
Lastly, we contrast the strengths and weaknesses of group decision making. This is some implications for managers in the workplace to recognize that group can dramatically affect individual behavior in organizations to either positive or negative effects. Therefore, they should pay special attention to roles, norms, and cohesions to understand how these are operating within a group and to understand how the group is likely to behave. And pay attention to the status aspect of groups because, to increase employee satisfaction, make certain people perceive their job roles accurately. So this is the end of our presentation about this chapter. Thank you for your watching.